Last week, a sales representative around my age came into my office. We were talking casually about health, energy, and how difficult it is for most people to stay well while managing work and life. At one point, she asked me a simple question. "What supplements do you take?" I pointed to my desk and showed her a few bottles: omega-3, magnesium, and vitamin D. She smiled and said, "Oh, my doctor checked that a couple of years ago. I'm fine." That sentence is something I hear often, so I told her something simple. Being fine a couple of years ago doesn't guarantee you're fine today. She looked a bit unsure, so I suggested we actually check instead of assuming. We used finger prick testing kits, drew small blood samples, and sent them for analysis. Nothing complicated, just direct measurement. When the results came back, both of us were surprised. Not because anything was extreme, but because everything was lower than expected. That's when I realized again how common this is. People assume stability in their health, when in reality, their internal markers slowly drift over time without obvious symptoms. So I want to go through the 3 supplements I personally prioritize. And more importantly, what I've learned from repeatedly testing both myself and patients over the years. These are not random supplements. They are 3 of the most foundational nutrients for long-term function: omega-3, magnesium, and vitamin D. Omega-3. Let's start with omega-3. This is one of the most important fats in the human body. It plays a role in brain function, heart health, inflammation control, and eye health. When we tested our levels, mine came back around 5.7. That number might sound acceptable if you are used to standard lab ranges, but it is not optimal. From my experience, levels below 6 are common, but not ideal. A healthier range is above 8, and in some of the best metabolic profiles I've seen, levels are in the double digits. Interestingly, the only group I consistently see with very high omega-3 levels are people who regularly consume fatty fish like sardines. In some cases, individuals who ate sardines daily for several weeks reached levels above 10 or even 12. Most people, however, do not eat this way consistently, so deficiency becomes common, not because omega-3 is rare, but because dietary patterns do not support it. Now, many people try to correct this through supplements, but here is where it gets important. Absorption matters as much as intake. A lot of fish oil supplements cause digestive discomfort or fishy burps. This is usually a sign that the oil is not being absorbed efficiently. One improvement is the triglyceride form of omega-3. This form is closer to how fats naturally exist in food, and it tends to be better absorbed by the body. It is often more expensive, but also more effective. Another simple but important point is that omega-3 should be taken with dietary fat. Without fat, absorption decreases significantly. The goal is not just to take omega-3, but to actually increase tissue levels over time. That requires consistency and proper form, not occasional use. Magnesium. The second supplement is magnesium. If I had to choose a nutrient that affects the widest range of body systems, magnesium would be high on the list. It is involved in muscle contraction, nerve signaling, sleep regulation, stress response, and energy metabolism. Almost every system in the body depends on it in some way. The challenge is that magnesium deficiency is extremely common, even in people who eat reasonably well. In my own experience, I notice the effects more clearly during fasting periods. When I fast for extended periods, especially 48 to 60 hours, my body naturally excretes more water and electrolytes. This includes magnesium. Even if levels were adequate before, fasting can reduce reserves. That is one reason why symptoms like mild fatigue, muscle tension, or sleep changes can appear during extended fasting if electrolytes are not managed. There are different forms of magnesium, and this matters more than most people realize. Some forms are more supportive for the brain, such as magnesium L-threonate. Others are more general or digestive friendly. However, not all forms are well tolerated. I tested a magnesium gummy product once. It was convenient and easy to take, but the response was not ideal. It led to a spike in blood sugar and increased cravings. Later, taking more than intended caused digestive upset. That experience reinforced an important point. Supplement delivery systems matter. Even if the nutrient is correct, the format can change the outcome. For general use, slower release or well-absorbed forms tend to be more stable. I usually adjust intake based on fasting or non-fasting days, rather than using a fixed approach. The key idea is consistency, not intensity. Magnesium works best when levels are steady over time, not taken sporadically. Vitamin D. The third and most important supplement is vitamin D. Many people think of vitamin D as a simple vitamin related to sunlight, but biologically it functions more like a hormone. It influences gene expression inside nearly every cell in the body. That means it plays a role in how cells behave, repair, and function. When we tested vitamin D levels, both of us were in the mid-30s. While many labs consider this acceptable, it is not optimal for performance or long-term health. From my perspective, a minimum functional target is around 50. For individuals focusing on recovery or optimal function, levels between 50 and 80 are more appropriate. Below this range, people often report subtle changes such as lower energy, reduced mood stability, and increased susceptibility to illness. Vitamin D enters cells and binds to receptors that influence the nucleus. This process affects how proteins are produced. These proteins are essential for immune function, brain activity, and tissue maintenance. In other words, vitamin D does not just circulate in the blood, it actively changes how cells operate. Even in sunny environments, deficiency is still common. Sun exposure alone does not guarantee sufficient levels, especially with indoor lifestyles or limited consistent exposure. Some people attempt to use light therapy devices or lamps to increase levels, but results vary and depend heavily on consistency and duration. In many cases, supplementation remains necessary to maintain stable levels throughout the year. The goal is not excessive intake. Levels above 100 are generally unnecessary. The optimal functional range appears to be moderate but consistent sufficiency, not extremes. When you step back and look at these three nutrients together, a pattern becomes clear. Omega-3 supports structural integrity of brain, heart, and cells. Magnesium supports nervous system stability, muscle function, and metabolic balance. Vitamin D supports cellular communication and hormonal regulation. Each one plays a different role, but together they form a foundation for how the body functions on a daily basis. Most people are not critically deficient in one dramatic way. Instead, they are slightly low in multiple areas at the same time. That combination creates slow, progressive changes that people often attribute to aging, stress, or genetics. In reality, it is often a matter of long-term nutritional imbalance. The solution is not complexity. It is awareness and correction of basic deficiencies. Testing matters more than guessing, and consistency matters more than occasional supplementation. The reason I continue to focus on these three supplements is not because they are trendy, but because they are foundational. When they are optimized, many systems in the body function more efficiently. When they are neglected, small dysfunctions accumulate over time. Health is not defined by isolated moments of feeling fine. It is defined by long-term stability in the systems that regulate energy, recovery, and resilience. That is why I always come back to measurement, correction, and consistency. I'm Dr. Sean Dozbo, and this is what I actually take.